Mark Graham, Arizona Response Systems, gun plumber. Today we are going to install an Israeli gas block on a new DS Arms Israeli style barrel. First we have to strip the barrel stub. So just going to drive out the barrel retaining pin. I'm using a hockey puck with some holes drilled in it, and they're generally not in very hard. If it is resisting you, start with a short punch or a stubby punch to get it moving, and then switch to the longer punch. Pin is out. Now we have to drive the gas block off the barrel. So what we're going to do is we're going to drive the barrel off the gas block. I'm going to clamp it in a vise gently, just enough so that this rim here is retained. For this I'm using aluminum jaws. You can use wood blocks if you need to, but as you see it's not in very tight. And I'm just going to bash on it. And then when I get close, since I don't want to damage this front edge with the hammer, I'm going to switch to a punch. And drive it out. Now this gas block is an older style open ear, and you can see that the ears are damaged. And I do have a way of repairing those. In the same manner in which it bent, it can be bent back. And so I just have a steel bar that I've ground to, it's actually for an L1A1 gas block, but will work pretty well on this as well. That's about right. A little bit more this way. Now, that was just to demonstrate removing the gas block. For this build, we have a closed ear gas block. And the advantage of the closed ear gas block is you have a flat surface that is perpendicular to the axis of the bore, so it makes aligning it easier. I'm going to take our new barrel, bayonet lug down, clamp it as close to the journal as you can. Get the bayonet lug at 6 o'clock. From feel, this is just a little tight, which is good. I could probably drive it on, but I'm going to sand the parkerizing off. I think this is 220 grit. Not a lot, just to take some of the roughness off of it. And you can use oil. I use Tap Magic cutting fluid because it has anti-galling properties. Slide the gas block on. And now what you don't want to do is bash on the area where the gas plug goes, because you will deform it. Ask me how I know. So what I use is a black iron pipe. In this case I have an air hammer attachment welded to the end, but you can just have an end cap and use a regular hammer. And on the other end I have a large copper fitting. Copper or brass is fine. And my air hammer, which is an aircraft riveting tool. And ready? Alright, it is on, but we don't know if it's straight. So I'm going to put a level And of all the levels that I've messed with, the aluminum magnetic Empire brand seem the most economical and consistent. I've bought more expensive ones that weren't as accurate. I've just been really happy with these. All right, so I'm going to rotate the barrel just a little bit until it's mostly level, and then I could just compare here, and we can see the gas block is going to have to rotate to my left. Now, sometimes you can do it with a brass or a plastic hammer. I do not recommend you use a steel hammer because it will dent. Alright, that's level. And that's not quite so. Alright, that is pretty close, but pretty close isn't good enough. So what I recommend is using a threaded rod, which of course I have available for sale. And then that gives you a much longer surface to compare. And I can see that it needs to come just a teeny bit to the left. Now, because I have a mill available and the mill is perpendicular, I'm going to walk over to the mill. That way I only need to level one. Because we already know that this surface is level. So now I only have to level this. And oh, it's close, but not quite. So I'm going to hit it with, just this is what I keep over here, it's a rawhide mallet. But I don't want to hit it while the timing rod is still in place, because the inertia may bend the threaded portion of the rod. So when you use one of these, you want it to be screwed all the way in so that the large flat surface is bottomed out, and that will limit the amount that it can bend if it's struck. I went too far the other direction. If they're super tight, you can't really use a plastic or brass hammer. You have to go to a heavier hammer. So putting a piece of wood between the hammer and what you're hitting will keep you from marring the sight. And there we go. As level as it's going to get. Now we have to pin it. If you try to drill this hole with a regular drill bit, as the drill bit comes in and hits the round portion of the barrel, it's going to want to climb up, and your hole is going to go way out of alignment. And so we have to do something in this hole to make the surface that it's hitting flat. V-blocks. Put the barrel in, make sure you don't clamp it on the bayonet lug and squish it. And again, we're fortunate that we have a perpendicular, if you come over here, see I want to align this at 90 degrees. Well, it's convenient that this surface here, all I have to do is make this surface parallel to a known vertical surface on the mill. So I'm going to stick my eyeball down there, line it up, and then put my level on the barrel over here, and see that I need to, there we go, and tighten that puppy down. Alright, this is a 5/32 hole. I'm going to start it using a 1/8 inch, this is a mill bit. to get a flat surface. If you don't have that, if you can use a chisel pointed starter drill, just something so you're not drilling a round surface. And I'm going to go halfway in. This is smaller than the hole diameter. Go about halfway in, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. Now the reason I do that is any error that I make in centering it, if I do it from both sides, it splits the difference. Make sure I'm level, crank it down. And the point at which it's most likely to break is right as it breaks through to the other side. The bit wants to catch, and carbide cutters are expensive, so I'm being gentle, letting the bit do the work, and I'm through. All right? Now, I'm going to leave everything set up the way it is and switch to a 3/16 for the handguard screw hole. Now this is a lot closer to the final diameter of the hole, so it takes a little bit more to get it aligned. I just want to make sure that it freely travels up and down without touching the sides. And here we go. I can go a little faster with this because it's a heavier duty bit than the little 1/8 inch. And I'm through. All right. Now back to the workbench. The hole is a 5/32 or 0.156 inch, and so I'm going to start with a 0.147 inch bit. So we are still undersize. And you want high RPM and low feed. Just kind of tap it. And now I'm going to switch to the other side again, so any error is cut in half. All right, now I'm going to move up to a 0.152 inch. So the 152 is 4/1000 of an inch smaller than the pin, and that's a little tight for an interference fit on a pin this size. So what I'm going to do, instead of using a reamer, is just run the bit fast through it a couple times. So I'm enlarging the hole another 1/1000th, which will put me at 2 to 3/1000ths undersized for the pin. That's it. Not much, just enough to clear any burrs out. And now I should be able to just drive that pin in, and it'll be a nice tight fit. When you get close, you don't want to be hitting any of this portion with the hammer, so I switch to a punch, and this is actually an air hammer bit. There are times when it's so tight that I do use the air hammer to get it started. It's kind of a judgment call on whether, if you need to use excessive force, if you should take the pin out and ream the hole a little bit more. And this one, borderline, maybe, well, I'm kind of at the point of no return. But if the pin starts to deform, it's time to pull it out, ream the hole, and do it again. Okay, I'm flush on this side. Now, it's possible on the other side, and yep, there it is. You can see just this little shaving here. And the way to get that out is to drive the pin in deeper so it protrudes slightly from the other side, and it'll break that little shaving off. So for that, I need to get a punch that is smaller than the pin, and just give it. So now I've gone below the surface, and that has made that little shaving break off. And now I'll drive it back to make it flush. And I have a lot of practice with this. If you end up marring the surface here, a Scotch-Brite but will clean it up nicely. Okay, so now I want to drill the handguard screw hole. And since that's a clearance, it's not as critical, and there are definitely different size holes in different gas blocks. Most of them are 0.209 inch, so I'm going to start with a 0.204 bit. And again, high RPM, low feed. Now I switch to the 209. And we're done. Okay, gas port should be 0.098 inch or 2 millimeter. But, and I don't know why, every, actually, let me grab that little barrel set. I've measured a lot of these holes, and they're supposed to be 0.098 or 2 millimeter. But on a lot of the Israeli stubs, they're larger than that. They're around 0.106. And I found that most of these DSA barrels, for whatever reason, if you use a 0.098 drill bit, it will not cycle reliably on an intermittent gas regulator setting. So I start at 0.106, which I have right here. All these bits that I'm using are cobalt. You need to be using cobalt or carbide, especially here. Do not use high-speed steel. Why? Because every once in a while, the bit will break off in the gas port. If it's hard steel like carbide or cobalt, you will be able to drive the gas block off and shear the brittle, hard metal. High-speed steel is not brittle and will just bend, and you end up with a bent drill bit stuck in your gas port. You will feel a very slight difference in, well, in the feel when it's about to break through. And at that point you want to back off the pressure and just keep it at the high RPM, but just feed it very slow. Otherwise, as it breaks through, one of the flutes is going to want to catch on the ragged edge and snap that bit off. Ask me how I know. That is it. We now have the barrel with the gas block mounted. I'm going to reparkerize this if it's going back to the customer just as a barrel, or I'll just continue with the build and finish it after it's mounted to the receiver. Now, there may come a time where you need to get the gas block off again, especially if you were driving it on and it was too tight and now it's stuck. Well, take your hammer, hit it right here, completely deform these threads and ruin the gas block. Or, second choice, take a piece of angle iron and put it here, and you will usually be able to drive it off, but you will bend this hole here out of round. That's okay. If it's not too bad, you can then take a punch like this that's tapered and use that to expand the hole again. The hard part is if you end up bending this groove for the gas regulator spring. That can be a little more difficult, but the metal right here is very hard. This area is hardened. Back here it's relatively soft. So you can actually see there is a slight, yeah, this got hit with a hammer at some point. It's not going to affect anything, but this is soft. So even though you can bend it back. What I did after getting tired of deforming holes was I took a piece of a cut-off shotgun barrel and just welded a steel block to it. So now I can put that and now when I'm driving it, the point of impact is here instead of here. And this is a much stronger surface. Well, that's all, folks.